So, are you looking for the top side hustle to make money for 2023? Well, Forbes just put out an article just recently. They just printed it and it listed the top 19 side hustles for 2023. And they didn't actually call it side hustles. What they called it was 19 home business ideas to start in 2023. So it's the top 19, but still side hustle, right? And in the top 5 of those 19, because I'm not going to go over all 19 of them, but in the top 5 of the 19, number 4 and number 5 are actually businesses that I'm already involved in. One is one that I've already made millions in, but they kind of put a little bit of a different spin on it. And the other, we're now actually collaborating with someone who's already made millions as well. And now we've actually collaborated and we're starting to do it as well. You want to know what those two businesses are? Well, you probably already know what the first one is that I was talking about. That's number 4, the one that I've already made millions in. You know what that is, right? If you don't, then that means you haven't been following me. And it's okay because I'm not trying to be famous or anything, right? But if you do, if you have been following me, you know there's no guess. Airbnb, right? Airbnb is one of the real estate, the ways in real estate that I've made that have also made me millions outside of the other traditional ways of real estate that I've done over the years. So just rentals and rehabbing and all that other stuff. But Airbnb is what my main thing has been for the last 7 years or so. In fact, Airbnb actually replaced traditional real estate. Once I started doing Airbnb and I realized that it really works. Because my sister-in-law had been telling me about Airbnb for probably like 2 years. But I mean, she was cleaning Airbnbs for someone. And the person that she was cleaning for, she said he had a bunch of Airbnbs and she was cleaning for him. He's making all this money. But like me, I'm already like, I don't need something new to do. That's how my thought process was. I'm not looking for something new to do. I got enough real estate. I'm not looking for the next new thing. That's not how I do things. But yet, I was hearing more and more and more and more about it. And then I was mentoring my daughter who had just graduated from college. And before she graduated, she said, "Dad, I want to come home and do real estate with you." And I'm like, "What?" "What?" I couldn't believe it. Why? Because all these years, like I mean, they grew up with real estate in their lives, all 3 of my kids. My biological kids. All 3 of them. And they grew up. When I say biological, just to qualify that so y'all don't, biological is because we also adopted my nephew who's special needs. We adopted him 15 years ago. And then my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law. So those are my kids too, right? So they're all my kids. So I call them, so my biological, so my biological one's my youngest daughter, Rosa, who y'all might know. My son, George, who y'all might know. And my oldest daughter, who I'm talking about now, Taina, who y'all might know. Well, she's the one who graduated. They all grew up around real estate, but I never forced real estate on them. And so I thought that maybe, just maybe, I was hoping it wasn't going to be the case, but it was possible that I'd get to a good old ripe old age and eventually die without being able to share with them all the wisdom that God has given me with the success that I've had in over so many years when it came to real estate. So that they, if they were to implement those things, they wouldn't have to live the life that they saw most people living, having to punch a clock for the rest of their lives and not having the real freedom to be able to just do the, the things with the gifts that God blessed them with in a major way, just to really make their mark on the world and on society the way they're called to. But that wasn't up to me. The way I saw it, it was up to God. Like God was the one, is the one that was in control. And I wasn't going to force them one way or the other. Right. So, but I was, and the only in my mind, my mind was made up until if they don't ask, I'm not gonna really, I'm not gonna say much. Just, every now and then I would bait them, see, just to see. But when she called and said, Dad, I'm getting ready to graduate, as you know, but when I graduate, I want to come home and do real estate with you. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And so I started mentoring her when she got home, showing her how to manage my portfolio, showing her how to do rehabs, showing her how to flip some things, how to buy some stuff, showed her how to do all of that. And then, and I had this big old goal that once she learns that, then the strategy would be for me to show her how to do rehabs, because I made a lot of money over the years on rehab flips. Show her how to do that, and then she will be able to teach her younger brother and sister. Because once they start seeing her doing it and she's making all kinds of crazy money, they're gonna want to do the same thing. So that was my grand plan. And because I had done many rehabs, but I hadn't done them in quite some time, because when she asked me, when she told me that that's what she wanted to do, she wanted to come home and work with me. At that point in time, I wasn't really even actively doing real estate. I had still a portfolio, but I was actively I had a homeless ministry at the time. And so that was what I was doing. I was active every day in my homeless ministry, helping the women and the men, ministering to them, showing, being an example to them, helping them with jobs and housing and taking them to church, doing Bible studies, all that stuff. That's what I was doing. But I had been praying for a while, probably about 6 months. And the prayer that I had was, Lord, is this still what you want me to do? Because the way I see it is like it was getting really rough. Meaning, like, there were a lot of challenges that were coming up that, in the homeless ministry, that was challenging me, but was also becoming a big stress on the family. And I know that ministry is not necessarily supposed to be easy, but I mean, the first few years it was awesome. And then the last couple, it had gotten more and more challenging. People dying, the drug overdose, people just going crazy. I had to save a few lives and that, but it wasn't just that. It was just a lot of different things that was happening. And I was really just starting to wonder. And my wife was getting stressed about it. I got into this major car accident because of something that was going on in the homeless ministry. So just people just being crazy. So could have killed me. So I've been praying, but I didn't go into homeless ministry because I wanted to. I went into the homeless ministry because I was called to go. So if I'm called to go, I ain't just going to leave because I want to either. You got to kick me out So I had to pray about it. So I prayed about it, and I was just waiting. And then like the Lord was showing me some things, but then when my daughter came out and did that, I was like, okay, that's it. Right? Because now and I didn't just stop the homeless ministry. I just handed over the day-to-day responsibilities to someone else, and it continued to run for another 4 years or so, without me being on the front line. I just provided the housing, I provided the funding personally, and in the guidance. That was about it, right? So in any case, all right. So now, um, I'm in homeless ministry. She calls me. I That was it. I left the homeless ministry day to day. I started mentoring her. And then we had this grandiose plan that I would have her do all these rehabs and show her how to do rehabs, make a bunch of money, and teach her younger brother and sister how to do it because they'll eventually be attracted because she's doing it. And then boom, like it worked. Well, after doing that first rehab with her, I was like, no, we ain't doing this again. you and let me tell you why. Because number one, it brought me back to the old days when I was doing this stuff and I was managing all these grown folk. I had, we had construction crews and, you know, inspectors and realtors and all kinds of stuff going on. And I was like, man, I do not want to be doing 10 or 15 of these a year again. That's not the lifestyle. Like how old was I then? That was, gosh, how old is she? She's 29. Don't tell her I told you her age. She's 29 now. So that had to be what? That was, yeah, like 8 years ago, I think. Something like that. So 7, 8, yeah, about 8 years ago. So I'm getting ready to turn 50 years old. Like I'm not gonna spend the next 10 years of my life, the next 5 years of my life, running around like with chicken with my head cut off doing that stuff. I don't care how much money is involved. I got enough money. So I'm like, but here's the other piece too. The other part was I remember when I was doing that stuff full time and I was making a ton of money. But here's the thing. I was a great provider, but I wasn't a great dad or husband. And the reason I say that is because I was never around. I was never around. And what does the word of God say? As a father, my main responsibility is to bring my children up in the training and instruction, the admonition of the Lord. If I'm never around, how am I going to do that? So I wasn't going back, and I also wasn't gonna have her start her life the same way with her future family. So that was it. And then as it relates to the homeless ministry, one thing, even though it was the thing that I also realized was that my first ministry is first, right? So you have to have an order of things. And so as I was praying about everything, the Lord showed me, like, you've done well with what I've given you. I know you didn't want to do this in the first place, but your heart was totally in it. You were fully obedient, and he blessed me all the way through it. And I'm going to continue to bless you, is what he told me. So this is where I want you. Mentor your daughter. And I did. Go be with your wife. And I did. So after that, I realized, you know what? There's this thing, Airbnb. Airbnb is this thing it's been in the back of my mind. I think now's the time I'm going to check it out and see. So let's just put the brakes on for a bit. I'm going to go test this stuff out for about a week, go study it. And then if it works, we're going to do this thing. And so I get pretty crazy when it comes to, like, I go deep. when it comes to figuring something out, like I shut everything down, shut everything off, and I'm just blinders on, total focus. Like I don't hear, see nothing, don't call me, don't talk to me, nothing. I'm just in it. Right. And maybe that came from my old boxing days. Because back in the day when I used to box, um, um, training for the Olympic trials back in '84, the '84 Olympic trials. I went to the Olympic trials, but boxing, like I was the worst person to be around when it was fight time. Like I wasn't mean or nasty. I was just don't talk to me. Like I was just so full. I wasn't even here. I wasn't even here. I was somewhere else. Just focused. And that's how I get when it comes to business. Sometimes like depends, you know. But yeah. So anyway, but that's what I did. And so for 3 days I did that. And then I was like, okay, I think I understand this stuff. Let me test it. So I tested it with one of the places I already had. I got the listing up. I saw if the thing could work. If it worked, people started booking. I'm like, yo, this thing works. But I'm also not the guy that's just looking to just make some money. Like that's not me. Like I know it works. I know it can make some money, but the question is it scalable? Like, because I'm not in this just to make a few bucks. If I'm going to do it, it's got to be something that really could change our lives. Like that could build wealth. Like is it scalable to that level? And so that's what I really started to study. Like, can I do that? And then as I tested some things, that's what I began to realize that, man, like this really, like I could scale this thing, but it wasn't scalable from a traditional real estate perspective. Like if I had to go out and buy every property, if I had to go out and buy all the houses to scale this thing to $1 million a year, like, you know how many properties I have to buy? Like I had money, but I didn't have that kind of money at that point. I mean, I could go borrow, but I wasn't trying to do that either. Right. So, and not just because I'm opposed to borrowing, because if you borrow for the right reasons, for the purpose of making money, not borrowing just for the purpose of buying stuff that's going to cost you money, but borrowing for the purpose of making money, where that 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 8%, 10%, 24% interest, where on credit cards and stuff, if I'm borrowing and using borrowed money to do something, the return on my investment, if that return on my investment is going to be 10, 20, 30, 100 times what they're charging me to borrow, that's why we borrow. Right? I did a video, a week and a half, I think ago, where I showed how I borrowed $100,000 and I paid 24% over a 2-year period, 24% interest on that $100,000. Within that 2-year time that I had to pay it back, I turned that $100,000 into 1.3 million. So who borrowing? Does it make sense? It makes sense. So I'm not opposed to it. But the problem with borrowing in this case was, if I wanted to scale, now I always got to be asking people for something. I got to go to the bank or private or whatever. Like me personally, I have a problem sometimes asking people for stuff. I like to just move and roll. Right. So that's why I got my war chest, my reserves, so I can move and roll. That's why I got the cash flow. So that when it's time to do something, like it's pumping out money when I'm sleeping. So I can just just go get it, boom, do the thing. Right. So so it wasn't scalable traditionally, but it was scalable non-traditionally. The way that I built and grew the homeless ministry, that was it. How did I grow the homeless ministry? Well, I was using my own places in the beginning, But then after I started doing it, what happened was all these people, because I was now volunteering at the city mission. I was doing chapel services and serving dinners, and like I was doing all that stuff. And when they knew that, man, you own properties too, and you can help us, like my phone was ringing off the hook. And I'm like, all right, so if I'm going to serve all these people, I'm not like, either I'm going to go out and have to buy properties, or I got to figure something out. And what I thought was, what I could do is I could lease the places. Then that'll allow me to scale. I'm not getting government funding or anything like that. So if I lease, then I could get a number of places without having to have a ton of money that I have to have out there while I'm doing the homeless ministry. So, and if I can lease them with the landlords knowing that I'm going to be using it for that purpose and they're okay with it, now I'm golden. So I tested that and it worked. I grew my homeless ministry. We had 50 units or something like that. So I'm thinking, when the Airbnb thing happened, I'm like, you know what? Like, this is real. Could I use the same model to do the same thing? Well, as one of my, as one of my brothers says, he says, a guess is just a guess until you test, right? So a guess is just a guess at best until you test. That's my brother Myron. He says that. A guess is just a guess is just a guess at best until you test. So I tested it. And the landlord was like, yeah, I'm okay with you doing it for that purpose, using it as, as an Airbnb. And I was like, wait, okay. So they're okay with me doing it. And what I figured out is, if I could get the place, if I already know how much I can bring in from an Airbnb perspective, and I could get the place at a rate that's at least half of what I'm going to be bringing in, it's a wrap. It's over. Do you know I was able to do that? So I told my daughter, it's on. It's on. We doing this. And we did. And over the next few months, we scaled it up to 14 units. And then within, I think, nine months or so, we had it up to 21 listings. And then I was like, push the brakes. Why? Because it was just she and I. And it really became more of a full-time gig. Like, we were cleaning and doing everything, managing the guests. And I'm like, pump the brakes. But why? Why was I doing it? There's always a method to the madness, right? At least if you know me. There's a method to the madness. The method to my madness was that if I do this and learn it well enough, then eventually remember what I said, it's got to be scalable, like wealth building type scalable. So if I'm able to get one place here that is costing, let's say, see if I'm getting this right. All right, no worries. So if I'm able to get a place that's costing, we're gonna leave that alone. I will have my vibe board in a couple weeks. I'm waiting for it to come. So if I'm able to get a place that's costing me the rent of, let's say, $2,000. So $2,000 for the rent. I don't know if y'all can see that. So if it's costing me $2,000 and I can, and this is Airbnb, and I can list it on Airbnb for and get anywhere from at minimum 4,000. What is that? So if the place I can get 4K and the rent is 2K, that means I'm making 2K. I'm putting as much in my pocket as the owner's putting in his pocket. And guess what? All I had to do was come up with first month's rent and security deposit. So the first month's rent is all I had to come up with, which I already made double that. And the security deposit I'm getting back when it's all said and done. So I'm not out anything. I got the money to just continue to grow. Why? Because after I get a couple of these things, I'll never have to go back into my reserves again because there's more than enough cash flow coming off of these things. Multiply this times 10 places. That's 20K. That's $20,000 per month. Right? So $20,000 a month, I can get as many places I want now without going into my reserves because just the cash flow alone is going to be enough to take care of first month's rent and security deposits anytime I'm picking up something. So that's how that worked. And I'm a spreadsheet guy. So I went into my spreadsheets and I did this long-term analysis. What does it look like in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? It was nuts. I was like, this is on. And that's what we did. We skipped. So, but in order to do that, I also had to be able to automate it so that now all the stuff we were doing, we didn't have to do. It could be done without us. And I could just focus on scaling and managing the people that are doing it in the systems. So we got some software. We hired a good cleaner. I trained her. And then, we still did the guest stuff for a little while. When we were communicating with guests, my daughter did that. So, and I just grew it. Well, that thing turned into the first year, it was only $46,000. The second year, it was $122,000. The third year, it was $144,000. The fourth year, I believe we're in COVID, that fourth year, it was only $145,000. Then the next year of COVID, it was 220. And then the next year, it was like 700 between me and my family, all the stuff that we had, it was like 700K. So like that thing just grew like crazy. This is cash flow. This is money. This ain't like equity. And it's all rentals. In fact, I eventually sold all my rentals because I didn't want any more tenant drama. I didn't need to have it. I didn't need it because the cash flow from the Airbnbs was amazing. It is amazing. And I didn't have the responsibilities of a landlord anymore. I didn't have to do the maintenance. I didn't have to pay property taxes. I didn't have to deal with, again, tenant drama. Because the guests that come in from Airbnb, like our guests are professionals. Like we don't even allow locals to stay in our places. They're all professionals who come in from out of town on business. They're there for a few days or a few weeks, and they're excited. They're focused. They ain't there for no nonsense. It's just doing their thing, and then they out. And then the next one come in, they start all over again. So that's the first one. Right. And And there's a bonus one I'm going to tell you about after I tell you about the second one, because that was number 5. I'm going to tell you about number 4, and then there's a bonus one that actually made me a lot more than the Airbnb, but it's Airbnb related, and it's something you can do whether it's Airbnb or not. It could be something else, whatever, and I'll tell you about it. So number 4 on their list is called, it says, property watch services. What is that? Property watch services. It says if you live in an area where there are a number of vacation or second homes and you are well versed in home services, you may want to consider starting a property watch business. Aha! A property watch business. Services vary by provider. However, many property watch businesses manage properties that are vacant, such as summer homes during the winter or while homeowners are away. Though it is not entirely home-based, you will need to check on homes to make sure they do not have any issues, frozen or leaky pipes or security issues. It is a business that those with a knack of home maintenance and management can do largely from their home, because when an issue is found, the job involves just delegating the work to the right people, i.e., plumber, electrician, making the appointments, and ensuring that any issues are resolved. Now, we call that the home watch business. They call it the property watch business. It's the same thing. And here I'm in Florida now. In New York, like, I had no idea. I'm sure it exists, but like most people don't realize down here in Florida, like right now, I'm on the water. The place I have, beautiful home right on the water. I'm not here in Florida all year round. There's a lot of other people in this community that are not they're not here all year round. Most people on the coast, the coastal side, many of those people, I met so many people from New York and New Jersey since I've been here over the last couple of years. Why? Because they're migrating and they come, I guess they call them snowbirds, right? I guess that's what you call me, a snowbird. We went back over the summer and just stayed at our place in New York, upstate New York. My wife loves to go back because it gets real hot here in the summer. So we go back. She gets to play in her garden there, and we stay a couple months. And then at the end of the summer, we come back here. And then last year we went back for Christmas. It was so pretty, right? I knew I only had to be there for 2 to 3 weeks. So I get to go back to my home in New York. I get to enjoy Christmas there in our family home. I get to play in the snow for a couple of weeks, which if I didn't get to play in the snow for a couple of hours, I'd be happy. But at least I know a couple of weeks I get to play in the snow. And then after, I get to come back here to Florida, where all the beautiful sunshine and blue skies are. So that's what we did. Many people do that. But when they leave, they got these $1 million homes that aren't being watched. And there's mold issues, there's bug issues, there's rodent issues that could happen out here. I mean, listen, I don't know if y'all know Florida, but one of the things that I figured out here in Florida, they ain't just normal animals like backyard animals like squirrels like we have in New York. They ain't little rabbits and things. You got alligators and snakes and lizards. This stuff like is crazy out here. The spiders be like this. They got these things called stick bugs. I never seen a stick bug. Listen, the wildlife here is no joke. It is no joke. Some of it's really beautiful though. They got the big old birds. Made me laugh. My wife and I, when we first got here, we're walking in the community and just walking. And on top of the house, where we're used to just seeing, little pigeons or sparrows. The bird on top of the house was as big as I was. I'm like, what is that? I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Anyway, I love it. I love it. So, but it's just different down here. And I've heard so many horror stories from people who didn't have good home watch service or didn't have one at all. And they come back and they now have hundreds of thousands of dollars in renovations that they had to do because they missed something. They may have a spider infestation all throughout their walls. They might have mold that is just spread all throughout the home because it's been closed up and they had some water that spores came up and they didn't, like, just crazy stuff that I've heard. And by the grace of God, we haven't had any of those issues. But I also had the good fortune of meeting someone here who was interested in our Airbnb Academy. And they got enrolled, not just enrolled in our Airbnb Academy, they got enrolled in our VIP Wealth B&B. So we have wealthbnb.com, Wealth B&B, and VIP, where we not only help you, we actually build your $1 million portfolio in 3 to 6 months. But VIP Wealth B&B Plus is where we also build your $1 million academy. So they were like, wait, you do that? Because we have like the largest home watch business in Florida. If you do that, I want that, because we're not even scratching the surface of the people that we're able to help. In your framework, the way you explained it to us from a training perspective, like, I want to be able to do our home watch the same way you're doing your Airbnb with full automation, all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we help you. And that program is $250,000. $250,000. But guess what? They already 10x their business already, and they were making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So anyway, back to the story. When I got to learn their business because I was helping them, I'm like, look, I'll partner up with you. I'll partner up with you because your business is the bomb. You just don't know how to do this thing. So now we're doing home watch. And it's amazing. It could be passive. When you structure it properly, you automate it properly, the same way we do on the Airbnb side. I was like, this is crazy. And the people that I'm talking about, like, these guys, they know this stuff like the back of their hand. They turn people away that want their services. So we started homewatchnews.com. We started just Home Watch News, VIP Home Watch, homewatchglobal.net, like Home Watch US. Like, we started these things, like Home Watch is growing, but Home Watch News, homewatchnews.com, that is like taking off. And this, I didn't even know, like, this Forbes article didn't even exist then. Someone had recently sent me this. In fact, when I jumped on this, we plan out our videos a week ahead of time. My team had planned out this topic when I jumped on, because today was kind of crazy. We just moved and I had a bunch of places that we picked up this week. And I've been busy signing new leases and getting students their stuff, getting my students new properties and things. And so when I jumped on tonight, I was like, what are we talking about tonight? What am I talking about? They're like, top side hustles for 2023. I'm like, side hustles? Like, I ain't into side hustles, but we'll do it. And I'm like, I already know what the top ones are because I just read the Forbes article. So I'll just talk about that. And there you go. The, of the top five, two of the things that we're doing that we have a lot of experience in, they're already on there. And and but again, I ain't into side hustles. Like when I look at something, I'm looking at something because I don't need the money. I don't need a side hustle. I don't need something that's going to keep me busy and take me away from my family, take me away from being able to serve the way the Lord's calling me to serve. I'm not looking for something else just for some extra bucks. Don't need that. But if there's something that really fits in my assignment, if there's something that's worthy enough, that's interesting enough, that's big enough, that has the ability to change lives, now you got my interest. Now I'm interested. But it's still got to fit. And so that's why it made so much sense. Home watch and then Airbnb. That's why. So if you're looking for a side hustle, like check out that Forbes article. And but check out those two things too. Right? They're beautiful. These things, when it comes to business, you from a business perspective, you don't like, there's all kinds of things you can do. However, one of the things I will tell you, and just take it from me. I mean, I've been in business for 20, 30 some odd years. Real estate was my first love. And what I would say is, don't make it a side hustle. Like, if you're going into business, and if you're already in business and you're already making decent money, like, unless there's something, like, stay focused, right? But if there's something that will 10x your business, that will change your family's life, then that's different, right? But also make sure it's something that isn't just about the money. Make sure it's something where it does allow you to serve with the gifts that God's blessed you with. And it's something that you're going to be passionate about. Like, if you're passionate about it, then, because business, is not perfect. There's going to be ups and downs. And when you have the ups, it's exciting. Like, I did it. But then when you have the downs, it ain't like, it could be a drag. And whether you got ups or downs, like, if you're really pursuing something, it could be also very lonely. If you're focused like me, right? It could be lonely. If you're an entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about. It can be lonely because most people don't get it. And especially when you start making millions of dollars, most people really don't get it. Right? And but if you're doing it with a passion and it's something that you love, and it's within your assignment that God's given you to use your gifts to serve the people in a way that gets them results at a high level, in the way that pleases him, then those times when it gets lonely, those times when you have your downs, because you're so passionate, you ain't going to stop. It's going to take a lot to get you to stop. And that's the key to business, being able to persevere. Just persevere, right? The longevity, most businesses fail in the first 2 years, first of all, because of funding. And then over the next 7 years, 90% of businesses fail. Why? Mainly because the the owners never never structured the businesses so that they can operate independently of them. They're still the ones in the center. So if the business is that much dependent on you, you most cases you don't have a life, right? Why I wasn't going to allow my daughter to go down that same path. I want her to have a life. And I want her to be a great provider, not a good wife or a good husband. I mean, a good mother, right? She's got her role as a wife to love her husband, to honor and respect and obey her husband as in the Lord. Yeah, some of y'all may not like that, but that's what the scripture says. And by the grace of God, she has a husband that also understands his role as a husband, to love his wife as Christ loved the church, willing to die for her, washing her with the water of the word, presenting her back to her father without stain, blemish, or wrinkle. She comes only after God, even before him. And when you have a husband, or when you are a husband that understands your role that way, that woman ain't gonna want to do nothing but honor and respect you the way that God's calling her to. Right? So, but business is about persistence. I like to call it it's a young man's game, but it's an old man's game. What do I mean by that? Because the longer you're in it, the wiser you get. You don't have to be fast. You just have to be wise. And so again, if you're persistent, if you're just persistent and you're just staying with it, then what's going to happen, what's going to come from it is just success. So most people get out because they don't structure it properly, and the business is centered around them and they just can't do it anymore. It's not wise. It's not wise. Think about what happened with Moses. Right? I've been studying Moses. I've been, talking about Moses. In fact, I did a Bible study yesterday that used the Israelites as an example. But Moses, when he got the Israelites out of Egypt, he was now, leading them. And his father, Jethro, had come and saw how he was leading them. And his father said, "Son, this is not good." He goes, "What do you mean, Dad?" He goes, you can't do it this way. You have too much responsibility. This will not last. It'll burn you out, and you're not serving them in a way that's good, that's effective, that will last. He goes, you need to appoint others that can serve their needs, and then you manage those that are serving, and they come to you with the hard stuff. Not all the day-to-day. You got 600,000 Israelites here. You can't do this. Well, guess what? That was wisdom he got from God. Moses made the change. Things got better. God even did the same thing to Moses. He said the same thing. Moses was so fed up at one point, at the time when the Israelites were complaining about not having any meat. So they were complaining about God for not having any meat. And they were like, why? It's dark in here. They were like, why? Sorry about that. It was light when we started. They were like, why? Like, why has God brought us out here? Why did he bring us out here to make us suffer? Why couldn't he just leave us in Egypt? At least we had meat. And Moses was like, I'm just done. Like, these people have been complaining the whole way through, Lord, regardless of all the things you did to bless us. They just keep complaining. He said, why did you put this burden on me? He said, these are not even my kids, Lord. Why did you put this burden on me? He says, in fact, Lord, I'm so done with this. He said, why don't you just kill me now? He says, if I have favor in your eyes, just take me out. Moses was through. He was too through. He was done. And you know what God said? God was just so merciful. He got it. Because he was angry too. He said, you know what, Moses? This is what I'm going to do. He said, I want you to gather 70 of the elders together. Gather them. Come on. He said, bring them here, and I want you to tell them these things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to anoint them with the spirit that I've given you. And then they're going to be able to help you with all these people. So you don't have to do that. All right. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to send y'all some meat. He's I'm gonna send you so much meat, not meat for a day. He says, not meat for a week. He said, not meat for 2 weeks. He said, I'm gonna send you so much meat. I'm gonna send you meat for a month. You're gonna eat. I'm gonna send you so much meat. You're not gonna eat, as he said, you're not gonna be able to eat for a day or a week or 2 weeks. You're gonna be able to eat for a month so much that it's gonna come out of your nostrils. That's what he said. Like, it's gonna be loathsome. They're gonna be sick, just disgusted with so much meat. And Moses was like, wait, Lord, like there's 600,000 of us. How are we going? Where all this meat gonna come from? Like, am I supposed to kill all these people? I mean, all these animals to do that? Am I supposed to catch all the fish in the sea? Like, how is this gonna happen? And the Lord said, now I'm kind of paraphrasing. I'm giving you the 2023 version of what God said. But go ahead and read it. It's in Numbers. And he said, you forget what I did? Did you forget who I am? He said, this is what he said. Has the Lord's arm been shortened? Has my arm been shortened? You tell me I can't do this? He said, just tell him what's getting ready to happen. He said, show up tomorrow, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He blew in all these quail. He blew in so much quail that it was 4 cubits high and off the ground, the piles of it. And to see from one end of where it stopped to the other, you'd have to walk, he said, one day that way to see the end on the right, or one day that way to see the end on the left. That's how much quail there was. So anyway, I went a little bit further. He did the same thing for Moses. He told him to bring the elders because like you must be stressed. Like, it wore you out because you asked me to just take you out, like to just kill you right now. Because it was just too much for you to bear. because you're doing it wrong. You're still trying to do too much. And people do that in our businesses. That's why back in, I told you, I put the brakes on, right? We got up to 21 listings. Like, I wasn't trying to do this to just save money from paying people. I was doing it so I could learn, so I could automate to have the thing work for me. And then I used the money, right? Use the money to pay the people and to grow the business so that the money can make more babies and have more baby monies that now continues to grow the account while the other monies is growing the business and serving the people. That's it. That's how this stuff works. But you got to get out of the center and understand, how to think about systems and processes and money. So anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. We ain't gonna get too much into that unless somebody's got some questions. Somebody got some questions, I can get into it. But that's it. So the top now, I told you I had one bonus thing. So what was the bonus? The bonus was the teaching, the coaching, and the mentoring. I don't see that on here. On the list of 19. Oh, yes, I do. It's number 7. It says sell online classes. Want me to read it? It says, if you're an expert at something, you may be able to create and teach an online course. This might be a marketing class or a yoga class. The course possibilities are endless. It's so true. Those starting an online course should be an expert in that field with years of experience doing the thing that they are teaching. However, you don't need a special credential to teach an online class. There are different ways to market the course. You can join the online course community, such as Udemy. All right, I'm gonna dispel that myth because I've made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars doing online teaching. And the fact of the matter is, you do not need to be an expert in the thing that you're teaching. That's not true. They're right. The list is endless. But why don't you need to be an expert? Because you only need to be further ahead than the people that you're teaching. That's it. It doesn't make you an expert. You just need to be further ahead than the people that you're teaching. So if you are teaching beginners something and you know something better than a beginner, you've had some success with something that's better than a beginner, someone just getting started, you could teach it. Because you're always going to be ahead of them as you're teaching and helping them grow. I was not a quote unquote expert in Airbnb when I was teaching it. I was an expert in real estate, but Airbnb and traditional real estate are not the same. However, I had already made, when I started teaching Airbnb, I had already made a couple $100,000 with Airbnb. I wasn't an expert. I only had a couple years of experience. And I hadn't even made a couple $100,000. I was approaching that, but I was I knew I was ahead of the beginners that hadn't done anything and still thinking about it. So I taught them how to do it the way I did it, how to get your first place in the first 14 to 21 days, using the win-win principles, how to have landlords reaching out to you by this time tomorrow, inviting you out to take a look at their places. 1, so you can see how nice the places are, and 2, so you can begin discussing you leasing those places for your own Airbnb business. How to start and grow your own, at that point, $5,000 to $15,000 a month Airbnb passive income business without owning property. Like, that's what I taught, because that's what I did. I knew how to do that. How to quickly build a $5,000 to $15,000 a month Airbnb portfolio. Now we're building $1 million portfolios for people in 3 to 6 months. So yeah, I'm pretty much an expert now because I'm ahead of 99.9% of the people. I make more money than 99% of the people on Airbnb throughout the world. So yeah, I'm an expert. I've taught and have helped and gotten success for thousands of people all over the world. So yeah, I'm an expert. Do I know it all? Probably not. But you don't have to be an expert. What you do have to do, though, is decide to get started and do the doggone thing. If you decide to get started and do it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Guess what's going to happen after you make the mistake? You're going to learn from the mistake and you're going to get better. And then guess what's going to happen? If you keep doing it, you're going to be better and better and better. And eventually you're going to make some money. When I started teaching Airbnb, it took me 30 days before I think I made like $5,000 teaching in 30 days. I ain't going to talk about how much we make now, but put it this way. We ain't poor. so there's a word that the Lord uses, prosperous, abundance. He even says rich. What did he say about Abraham? He said Abraham was very rich in cattle, in land, and in gold. so yeah, we do okay, right? We do all right. But we started just saying we're going to do it. That's how I started. I'm going to do it. I'm not an expert in Airbnb, but I know more than somebody. And I'm going to teach them what I know if they want to learn it. Because I know how to get them results if that's what they want. That's it. That's all I can give you is what he gave me to give you to get you the results. So if you got a gift that he gave you, teach it to your freshman class. That's what I like to call the freshman class. Your freshman class, someone who looks at the thing that you're doing right now and they're behind you and they're coming up and you're helping them come up. There's always going to be a freshman class. And when you can do that, you structure properly, the reason why it's very lucrative and you can make millions and millions and millions of dollars a month. Oops, sorry. All right, I let the cat out of the bag. But millions of dollars, like it doesn't even have to be. It's because you reach people all over the world. Because when you do this stuff online and you're able to get people results, then what's going to happen is people from all over the world will, like, there's no limit. Like I didn't get into coaching and mentoring because I was looking for a side hustle. Remember, I'm looking at scalability of things that can change your life. And what I learned over the last year or so, I knew this, but I didn't know it was truly a statistic in this space, in the coaching space. But whatever it is that you are doing, if there's something that you're doing and you're good at it, if you teach it, you can make 10 times more. Minimum, you should be making 10 times more if you teach it with the right framework, not like in a classroom, not traditionally. I'm talking like if you teach it online with the right framework, you can make 10 times more than actually doing the thing. So yoga, like if you like beach yoga, you teach beach yoga, it's cool. It's a nice hobby. You make a few bucks if you want to do that, if you're on the beach teaching it. But if you're teaching it online, you can reach people all over the world. And those same 10 people or 20 people in this little city, your little city, that wants your help with beach yoga, guess what? There's a lot more little cities all over the world with the same group of 10 people that want your help. And you get to reach them all. You just got to know how to do that. So that was my bonus one. I hope that one stuck, right? Because that's the key. So with that said, we're going to wrap it up. It was fun. Always fun. Listen, I love doing this stuff. I love it. And the thing that I love about the YouTube channel is that I get to give this stuff away for free. Like you ain't like people pay me over $5,000 an hour to consult them. Y'all getting this stuff for free. So, so listen, use it. I'm telling you, use it. If you use this information, I promise you, you will have success. The people who you know and love that are counting on you reaching the vision God's given you for your life and your family with those gifts and those passions and those talents that you have, using them to serve. Those people that you know and that you love, they're counting on you reaching that vision. And guess what? There are so many more people that you don't even know yet all over the world. And even in your own lineage who just haven't been born, possibly. They're counting on you too. So with that said, use it. Prayerfully, this was helpful. If it was, share it with someone. Share it with someone. Don't be holding this stuff back, keeping it to yourself. He said, don't hide your light under a bushel basket. Share it with somebody. Share it with 10 people. Let them know. Bless them just the same way you were blessed. You never know what's going to come out of that. Share it with someone. And guess what? Put a comment inside the chat. Subscribe to the channel. Put a comment inside the chat. And you know what? I'm going to send you some other stuff too that'll just bless you even more. All right. So God bless you. Talk to you soon. You got this. Talk to you soon. And I'll see you in the next video.